Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers and to our head-to-head between the Adidas Boston 13 and the Adidas Adios Pro 4. These two fast Adidas stablemates share some design DNA, including Lightstrike Pro midsoles, light mesh uppers and Adidas's Carbon Energy Rods 2.0. But in theory, one is built to handle your training, the other for executing the race. So is the Adidas Boston 13 just a perfect training partner for the racier Adios Pro 4? Has it got more in its locker? Can you train in the Pro 4 as well? Let's get into it in our Adidas Boston 13 versus Adios Pro 4 head-to-head. Quick details first then, and the Adios Pro 4 is among the lower stack carbon race shoes with 39mm in the heel, 33mm in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. The Adidas Boston 13 meanwhile packs less across the shoe with 36mm in the heel, 30mm in the forefoot, also for a 6mm drop. The Pro 4 weighs in at 202 grams or 7.1 ounces in my men's US 9, UK 8.5 test shoe. Despite the lower stack, the Adidas Boston 13 lands at a heavier 9.1 ounces or 259 grams in the same size. On price, you're going to pay $250 for the Pro 4, $160 for the Boston 13. Quick look at how the shoes compare then, and the Boston 13 and the Pro 4 have undergone some significant updates for 2025. The changes put more clear distance between the two shoes, marking the Boston 13 out as a versatile, speedy trainer, while the Pro 4 remains your race day, guns blazing PR chaser. The big changes come in the uppers of the Boston 13, which some runners found the minimal racy uppers on the Boston 12 worked well for speed, almost akin to the Pro 3 and Pro 4, but wanted more comfort for logging the longer training miles. While Adidas has answered that call, the Boston 13 now adds more daily mile comfort with padded traditional heel collars. The Adidas Pro 4 sticks with the internal pads and the kind of thin race ready heel package. In a bid to give the Boston 13 a snappier feel, there's also more Lightstrike Pro foam in the dual foam Lightstrike Pro and Lightstrike setup. That's predominantly under the forefoot. The Adios Pro 4 midsole is all Lightstrike Pro with a new formula foam that was tuned to provide a little extra softness compared to the Adios Pro 3. The forefoot rocker in the Pro 4 has also been moved back to boost efficiency. It's now positioned at 60% of the length of the shoe. That's the same as the Adidas Pro Evo 1. Beyond that, it sticks to weight-saving strip-back design that you get in the racier shoe. Both shoes feature Adidas's Carbon Energy Rods to give a little bit of stiffness, a bit of propulsion and a little bit of control. Up top, the Adios Pro 4 uses brand new light lock uppers with locking bands that wrap the foot for a snug and secure fit, providing some additional support as well. You've got these one-way stretch woven mesh uppers that aim to address one of the biggest gripes of the Pro 3, that some runners found the fit a little bit fussy. You still get a flat wrapping tongue. The Boston 13 also features engineered mesh uppers. They're not as light, bit more rigid, but still quite airy. Both shoes use a combination of light traction and continental rubber on the outsole. There's a little extra reinforcement in the key heel impact zone on the Boston 13 to help it handle that bigger training mileage.
So it comes to fit of the two shoes. Got a UK 9, US 9.5 for both. Sometimes Adidas shoes can come up a little bit short. I found that actually with the Adios Pro 4 a bit more than the Boston 13. I've got no real problems with the fit on the Boston 13, I would say. It's got quite a roomy fit around the toes, less narrow than you traditionally expect from Adizero shoes, and I've got enough length there. Good hold around the heel and midfoot, and it's quite a comfortable heel as well, as opposed to the one on the Boston 12, because you've got a bit more padding here on the 13. Adios Pro 4, I think I would go half size up if I had the chance to, again, with this shoe. It's not just that the length is quite short. I don't think it's actually that much shorter than the Boston. I just think the way the toe box is set up, it's a bit like closer around the toes. Maybe it's a bit narrower. Maybe the material on top just sits close to the toes, but I do feel like it's much more noticeable to me on the run, especially if I go to any kind of hills or run at faster speeds for a prolonged period. That, especially on my right foot, which is a little bit larger than my left foot, I do find that I hit the front of the shoe a little bit. So I'd be wary of the fit in the Adios Pro 4. I'd probably look at going half size up, but I was okay in my normal size in the Boston 13.
Let's have a look at the fit then. And one thing you know about the Adios Pro 4, I mentioned it before, they're not great for length. The toe comes quite up tight to the top of the toe box, which has caused black toenail problems. They're quite snug. This whole front box section here, toe box section, is quite narrow. It tapers quite fast, and everything feels a little bit cramped from the toe knuckle across. That little toe for me is quite squeezed in when I'm in my regular Adidas size, which is a UK 8.5, which I believe is a US 9. Back across the midfoot section, you know, I've got them laced down here and they hold really well. That tight fit holds really well. The heel collars have held very well, even though they're quite minimal. There's no rubbing, no problems there. You can obviously fold that tab down as well to keep that out of the way. The thing is, when you go to the same size in Adidas in the Boston 13, what I get is a bit more room towards the end of the toe box. I've got still quite a narrowing here. It tapers quite fast around here, but there's not as much pressure on my little toe here. I've got a bit more room across the midfoot. And I think that goes too for kind of the lacing across the midfoot. They just don't feel quite as tight as you get in these. So some, you know, you might describe that as kind of race fit, but when I went 26.2 in the Adidas Adios Pro 4, that caused black toenail issues. I haven't gone that far in the Boston 13, but they generally feel a bit roomier. So I think really in the Pro 4, I would recommend going half a size up or being very careful about your sizing. In the Boston 13, I quite like the way these fit for now. So I recommend going true to size. I like the padded heel collars as well, the slightly more padded tongue. Everything just feels a bit more comfortable than the Pro 4.
The fit for me in these two shoes, I'm a size 8 in the UK. I normally go up half a size in Adidas shoes. Sometimes I don't and I regret it. The Boston 13s, I've gone up to an 8.5 in these and I'm very happy I did because there wasn't enough space in the size 8 for me as usual. I've actually found it to be a pretty comfortable shoe. It's not the widest shoe out there, but there's definitely a bit more space in the midfoot than you get in the Pro 4. Nice bit of padding around it, very comfortable shoe all round. I quite like this upper, so I would go up half a size in the Boston 13. In the Adios Pro 4, I didn't go up half a size, and that's because when I bought these, they only had a size 8, and I actually wanted a size 8.5, but I got a bit excited. I bought them the day before Manchester Marathon, and I was tempted to wear them for that. But I'm glad I didn't, because I definitely should have gotten a half a size up on what I normally wear. They are quite a restrictive shoe, so in the midfoot they're definitely a race shoe. If I had wider feet, I'd probably have issues with this, even if I went up half a size. And I'm not too keen on the lack of padding around the back of the shoe. No, I've not had any issues with it. I have had problems in the past where this design has rubbed on my heel, but it hasn't done so in the Pro 4. So it's a pretty comfortable shoe, but I definitely go up half a size in it.
So on to run test, and I've done quite a lot of running in both of these shoes. The Adios Pro 4, I've put about 110, 120k on them, using them for a mix of fast workouts, training runs. I've also done an all-out park run in the shoes. And the Boston, I've done about 60k on over the past few weeks. Again, using it for a mix of training runs, a couple of easy to steady progression runs. I've done a tempo 10k in it as a second workout on a double day. And I think they are quite different shoes. And obviously in the way the Adidas range is set up, it looks like the Boston 13 is set up to be the training partner to the Adios Pro 4 racing shoe, and it is more of a daily trainer than the Adios Pro 4 for sure, but I don't think the rides are actually that similar for me. I almost think the Adidas Evo SL is more the training partner to the Pro 4. It's got the similar very sharp rocker design and a slightly softer, bouncier foam in the midsole, whereas the Boston feels like more of a generalist daily trainer, quite a durable, versatile shoe. You've got a much firmer feel to it than the Adios Pro 4 and the Evo SL. And in general, it seems like it's built to be almost a shoe in its own right that you probably could use for racing as well, and a versatile shoe, whereas the Adios Pro 4 is obviously very clearly a dedicated racing shoe and not one that you'd use for much else, really. So I really enjoyed the Boston 12 and the Boston 13. I've also really liked using, mainly because it's got a much more comfortable upper than the Boston 12, whilst retaining the same kind of ride feel. And what you get here is a ride with a little bit of punch, enough stability, enough comfort, a ride that can do a bit of everything. It's not the liveliest or most exciting shoe, especially compared to something like the Pro 4. It's not got a really bouncy feel to it. There's a decent wedge of Lightstrike Pro in there, but you have got the Lightstrike 2.0 carrier foam at the back, which is fine, but just not as bouncy as the Lightstrike Pro. Got the rods in there as well, which do give you a little bit of punch and made it easier to do things like sustain a pace during that tempo 10k. But again, it's not a wildly fast or fun ride here, the Boston 13. It feels like just a balance shoe all around that you can do everything in. Like running easy in the Boston 13 is fine. It's not uncomfortable in any way, despite the fact it's not the highest stack shoe. But yeah, you're not getting a load of explosive bounce, which is what you do get from the Adios Pro 4, which has a softer version of Lightstrike Pro in it, to my feel anyway, and you get a lot more bounce, a lot more rocker at the forefoot as well. So it's a lot easier to run faster in the Adios Pro 4. It's a much lighter shoe than the Boston. You've got a higher stack of a bouncier foam and that sharp rocker, and just turning over in it just feels a lot easier. So it's definitely a faster shoe than the Boston, as you'd expect, but it is a less stable one. the Boston 13 could be a stand-in racing option within the Adidas range if you find the Pro 4 too wobbly and that kind of thing, because it is a pretty fast shoe, but it's got a much more grounded feel. Could be a good option for first-time marathoners, that kind of thing, because you are getting a little bit of the boost from the rods and the foams in there, but you're not getting something as wild as the Pro 4. So yeah, definitely the faster shoe, the lighter shoe, the more rocket shoe, but less stable than the Boston 13, which is obviously built to be a bit more of a generalist trainer.
So in testing, I've logged north of 50 miles in both shoes. I've pushed them across a range of paces and sessions, everything from easy recovery runs right up to 5k pace intervals. My longest run in the Boston 13 took me up to 90 minutes on feet. I've also done a solo marathon test in the Adios Pro 4 and a mile with one shoe on each foot to really tune into the differences in these shoes, get a sense of how they compare. Most of those miles was on the road. Sometimes I wandered onto light off-road as well. Now these two shoes are designed to be partners, and there's some continuity here in terms of how they feel on the foot with the fit and the uppers and the stack height. But once you get moving, I think all of that really kind of goes out of the window. Not necessarily surprising. In terms of ride, they're quite far apart. The Adios Pro 4 has kind of bouncy, springy foam energy of an all-out punchy carbon racer. The Boston 13 is notably tamer and more controlled. The Adios Pro 4 midsole sinks and compresses far deeper and then returns with much more punch and feedback. The Boston 13 serves up much more ground feel, ground control. The ride is much more balanced and it's kind of firmer, even blocky by comparison. Now, depending on where you land, I think the Adios Pro 4 can feel like the midsole has a lot of moving parts to it. If you're striking mid to forefoot, it's less notable. I sort of definitely when I'm punching marathon pace, I don't notice. But if I'm landing further back, I think different parts of the shoe feel like they're moving separately. So it can feel somewhat less stable and smooth. The Boston 13 isn't a big bouncy ride and even might be a shade blocky, but what you get, I think, by comparison is a bit more stability with just enough versatility to handle endurance miles as well as kind of faster sessions. Everything is more uniform throughout with a more consistent and smooth transition that's probably down to that Lightstrike carrier, which brings a bit more rigidity, a bit more stiffness. You can run fast in the Boston 13. In fact, it does begin to open up and feel snappier as you pick up the pace. But you are going to have to do more of the work. It's not going to serve up the all-out energy of the Adios Pro 4, but it can sit with speed.
So there's a pretty big difference between these two shoes. They're both shoes that are designed for speed and for the Boston 13, a bit more versatility. But the big difference is the midsole in both of these shoes. The midsole in the Adios Pro 4 is Lightstrike Pro. It's very soft, it's very bouncy, and of course you have the rods in there as well. And as a result, you get a very bouncy ride in it. It's definitely a lot bouncier than the Pro 3. It's also a little bit less stable because this is a bit softer. And I have noticed when I'm out running in it that it does feel like I have to keep an eye on the road a lot more than I did in the Pro 3. But I really like the shoe. I think it is it's definitely very fast. It's definitely a shoe that is quite versatile when it comes to the distance used for it. The Pro 3 was a fantastic shoe for pretty much everyone if you were going to go and do anything from 10k up to a marathon. The Pro 4 is pretty much more of the same, but definitely a little bit less stable. And I'd probably say for someone like me, because I like softer, bouncy shoes, I prefer this to the Pro 3. I think there's a bit more to it. I think it's more in line with a lot of the other modern carbon plate shoes that are coming out. So I think it's an improvement for somebody like me, but I think for a lot of people it might not be, because you lose a little bit of that support and that stability that you get from the Pro 3, which was one of the big selling points if you didn't want to go for a carbon plate shoe that was really bouncy and high stack. The Boston 13, so this does have a little bit of Lightstrike Pro in it, not loads. It's got a layer of it, and then you get this firmer foam at the bottom, and as a result what you get is a much firmer, a much more traditional ride. It feels a bit heavier. It's definitely a heavier shoe on the foot, but you don't get as much of the performance feels that you get from the Adios Pro 4. So because of that firmer ride, because it's a little bit thicker on the ride, a bit heavier, it feels quite versatile. It's definitely nowhere near as fast as the Pro 4, but I think it ticks a lot of boxes. It feels a lot more supportive. It's definitely a lot more stable than the Pro 4, as you would imagine, from having a much more firmer layer of foam at the bottom. I don't feel like it's a particularly aggressive shoe. The Pro 4 does feel like it's tipping you forward. It does feel a little bit more like it's putting your foot into a position that is making you run faster. Don't get that with the Boston 13. It's a very conventional feeling shoe. I think it's definitely one that can be used for a variety of things. I wouldn't say easy runs is a strength of the Boston 13 because it's a little bit too firm for me for those easy runs. I want something that's a little bit more enjoyable and gives me a little bit of energy back. But it's definitely a more responsive shoe. So I would say that the Boston 13 probably sits in that daily running category. Faster training, if you're going to go and do interval sessions, things like that, it can handle those very well. But it's not a shoe that I would probably race in. I think it's just a little bit too clunky for that. But in that realms of daily to faster training, I think it works really, really well. And I think the other thing about it is as well is the durability. There's a really nice layer of rubber on the outsole of this. Just feels like it is built for lots and lots of miles. Whereas the Adios Pro 4, actually I've got my other one here. If you watch the channel, you know I tend to destroy shoes. This is after about 45k, so I've ripped the rubber off the outsole of the Pro 4, so nowhere near as durable. And even though I've not done loads and loads of miles in this, I imagine this Lightstrike Pro is probably not going to withstand miles and miles of training like the firmer dual layer makeup of the Boston 13 would.
So verdict, looking at these two shoes, obviously the Pro 4 is very much the racing shoe of these pair. It's a much faster shoe, it's a lighter shoe, it's definitely a better racing shoe than the Boston, a better fast workout shoe, but it's not a shoe you'd be using every day. The Boston 13 is a shoe you can use every single day, I think. It is a pretty versatile shoe, enough comfort there, enough stability for easy runs, and enough punch for faster ones, but it isn't as lively a ride as the Pro 4 or even the Evo SL within the Adidas range. It's got that more consistent feel, a slightly flatter feel, and it almost doesn't do as much work for you as something like the Pro 4 for sure, but you can still run fast in it, and I've enjoyed running fast in it, and it's probably a better shoe to go for if you want one shoe to do everything in than the Pro 4, because it is better for those easy workouts and just general daily training. And like I said in the run test, it could be a solid racing option for people who find something like the Pro 4 a bit too wild and unstable or expensive, because you're going to get a much cheaper shoe here in the Boston, a much more durable shoe as well, and a shoe that can handle all your training as opposed to the Pro 4 where it isn't really the best to go out and do easy runs in that shoe. So more value here in the Boston and more general use, but for flat out speed on race day and in workouts, Pro 4 very much lives up to its role in the Adidas range as the race day shoe.
Verdict then, and these are both excellent fast-paced shoes. The Adios Pro 4 is a lively, fun, propulsive ride that really delivers on the promise for a carbon racer. If you can get the fit right, absolutely got PR potential. The Boston 13 is a great rotation workhorse, albeit with a firmer, more responsive ride. If you like a shoe that encourages a quicker foot turnover and doesn't coddle your stride, the Boston 13 delivers. It handles mid to up tempo paces well and still offers enough cushion to take the sting out of the road. The Adios Pro 4 undoubtedly offers extra punch and is definitely the better marathon shoe and general race shoe. Some runners might be happy racing a marathon in the Boston 13 for a bit more consistency, but I think many will find that it lacks the kind of protection that you might want on the sort of softness side. On the flip side, I personally wouldn't train in the Adios Pro 4 except for track or interval repeats where I'm pushing that kind of 80% intensity, those kind of levels. But for those closer to all-out sessions, it's got more to give than the Boston 13. For anything long or cruising up to tempo, I would reach for the Boston 13. And one final note, the toenail woes of the Adios Pro 4 are problematic, but not for everyone. If you do suffer them, it's not great. So definitely watch out on fit. That is my last word on this.
Okay, so my verdict on these two shoes. Basically, if you're doing comparison of these two shoes, you're going to be looking at it for race day, fast training at a push, but you're probably not going to be buying the Adios Pro 4 if you're going to be doing anything easy day miles. If you're chowing through the miles, you're not going to be using the Pro 4 because it'd be a waste of money. You'd be wearing down a quite an expensive shoe. So this comparison I'll do based on race day. The Pro 4 is by far the superior shoe when it comes to racing. It's faster, it's bouncier, it's got a lot more energy return in it. It just feels like a shoe that's designed for speed. It's definitely the fastest of the Pro range for me, and feels like that midsole foam is really top tier now, and I know a lot of people have used it for various marathons over the last year and other races, and they think this is a fantastic shoe. So definitely when it comes to race day, I think this is really the best option, especially if price is not something that is concerning you. If price is concerning you, and you want something that's going to last you longer, you want something that you're going to be able to use not just for racing, for other sessions as well, although easy runs is probably not something I would use the Boston 13 for, it's a significantly cheaper shoe. And when it comes to the performance benefits of it, I think the Pro 4 is by far and away the best. But I think the Boston 13 is a pretty good shoe if you're maybe a beginner, or if you're somebody who's a more general runner and you want to save some cash and you just want one shoe to do everything in. I think it's an all right shoe. I think you're going to struggle if you're doing loads of easy sessions in this, because it's not a particularly soft shoe. But I do think it's a very good value shoe in that more conventional style. I definitely think the Adidas Evo SL is a better option. If I was comparing the Adios Pro 4 with the Evo SL, I think I would definitely go for the Evo SL based on the price, based on the feel. I think there's a very similar feel to those two shoes, so it would be much easier. But with the Boston 13, I don't think it really excels in any area. So if you're buying one of these shoes as a faster race shoe or faster training shoe, the Adidas Pro 4 is the way to go. And hopefully the Pro range seems to hang around for quite a while, so hopefully next year this will come down in price, and I think it will become an even more popular shoe. But if I was choosing between these two shoes, I'd definitely go for the Pro 4, because you're going to use this for racing and training fast, and it's by far a superior shoe to the Boston 13.
So there you have it. That's been our head-to-head between the Adidas Adios Pro 4 and the Boston 13. Give us a like if you found it useful. Drop us a comment if you've got a view on both of these shoes. Tell us which you'd use and why, what for. If you're interested in fast training shoes, I'm popping a video up on the channel that you should go and watch now. Otherwise, as ever, thank you very much for spending some time with us. And until next time, happy running, people.